Hejsa. You may remember the video I made a little while ago where I had started on making this bunting. So this bunting will say Tillykke med fødselsdagen, which means happy birthday in Danish. So when I last was working on it, I was cutting out the letters. I think I cut out all the banners themselves. So now I'm getting close to finishing it. And I made this the simplest I could think of. So I have two pieces of fabric that I sewed together. You can just make it with one piece of fabric, but because I wanted to stitch around the letters, I needed two pieces of fabric to make it a little bit more stable. So first I sewed around each banner with about 3/8, so 1 centimeter seam allowance to the edge, and then I cut all the way around apart from the top bit because that will be covered anyway. So using pinking shears that makes a scallop edge, which is quite fun, I think. You could use regular pinking shears or just leave them as a straight line if you want. And now I'm working on adding the banners to the binding that will hold them all together. So I made a very long strip of binding. And I made that, and I thought I would show you in case you're not familiar with it, using one of these. I'm not 100% sure what they're called, but it's a binding maker, maybe it's as simple as that. And this one is by Clover, but I'm sure there must be other companies making them. And it's a really ingenious little sewing gadget, and if you want to make a lot of binding for some kind of project, I can really recommend using one. And they come in different widths. So this one is 25 millimeters. I think there's an 18 one and a 12. There might be a smaller one. Yes, I think there's a smaller one. And I think there's also one that's a bit bigger than this one. So the size, I don't know if you can see that, where it says 25. So that is the finished size of the binding in millimeters. So you have cut fabric that is twice the width of the finished binding, and you feed it through, and it's helpful to cut the end that you're going to feed through to a point. It just makes it easier to grab it at the other end. So you feed that through, and once it's partly through, you may want to use a needle to help it. Right, there it comes. Sometimes it goes in a little bit wonky, and then you just have to help it. Sometimes you have to start over. But let's see. There we go. So you just have to adjust it a little bit sometimes. Don't know if I've actually cut this a little bit too wide. It seems to be bunching up inside. I don't know if you can see that. Let's just try and pull it through and see what happens. I think maybe I cut this to 2.5 instead of just 2 inches. That was silly. But you get the idea anyway. So you pull it through, and as you're, or rather, you're not pulling this, you're actually pulling the little gadget, and that's why it's got this handle here. Because as the fabric is released, you put an iron on it. I haven't got one on this table, but I think you get the idea. And then the iron presses the fabric, and it will then hold its shape. So if I just sort of press it by hand, and you can see it's way too big. I'm gonna have to trim this so that I can use it properly. But you can see here the fold lines. And if I had cut it to the right size, then they would meet in the middle as they are here. So it's just a useful little gadget for making binding, whether that's straight binding or bias binding. So back to my bunting. So as I think I mentioned in that previous video, I'm making this because I'm going, hopefully with my husband as well, if we can find someone to look after Blake, our dog. We are going on holiday with my family in Denmark. And because I live here in the UK, my parents do in Denmark, and my sister lives in the US. It's very rare that we get to celebrate birthdays together. So I thought what we'll do is we'll have a little combined birthday for everyone while we're all together. And that's why I'm making some bunting, to make it a little bit festive. So this is going to be quite long. And so happy birthday is 3 words in Danish, so I'm going to put 2 of the words together on one string or one piece of binding, and the other one, the third word, will be on its own so that they can hang one above the other. I think that will look nice. Of course, I'm not sure how or where we'll be able to hang the bunting in the place where we'll be staying all together. But I'm hoping that we can arrange it so that maybe my sister and her family go somewhere for part of the day with my parents, and then they come back, and then we'll have a small birthday celebration ready for everyone. Alright, it's time for a new word. So I've got 1.5 inch in between each letter. Definitely has to be more in between the two words. I think maybe I'll go with 3 inches. Yeah. And I wasn't sure how much extra binding to leave on each end of each section that I'm making. I want to make sure that there's enough so that we'll be able to, I don't know, string it up between some wood beams or who knows. I've seen pictures of the place where we're staying, but I can't remember what it looks like. So hopefully it's gonna be nice and sunny while we're there, so maybe we can hang it outside. And then we can have a little celebration on the patio at the place where we're staying. It's been a little bit fiddly making this. Well, not so much fiddly, just sewing all the cutting and then sewing on all the letters. It's a little bit tedious, but never mind. I might give the bunting then to my sister because she's got 2 kids, and it might be fun for them to have this for their birthdays going forward, seeing as they're half Danish. I think it was last year my brother-in-law, who is American, he made sure that they learnt the Danish birthday song. So every day for 2 weeks or something, when he was driving them to school, he would play the Danish birthday song so that they could learn it, which is quite fun, I think. Right, so that's the first section done. So now I'm going to sew all the way from one end to the other, attaching the binding to the banners as I go. And then I need to do the same for the other half of the bunting. Can't quite decide if I'm going to use the same thread color, which is a variegated one that I've used around the edges of the flags, or if I'm going to use something that blends in. I don't know, I can't decide. Oh, I've got a little bit of time. I'm going to attach the other flags or banners or whatever you call it to the other part of the binding, and then it's time to sew it together. So I'll do all that and then I'll come back and show you the finished bunting. I don't know if I'll be able to maybe hang it outside. We haven't got a wall where I can hang it up, I don't think. So I'll see you once I have finished the bunting. Right, so this is the finished bunting. I'm really happy with how it's turned out. I like the colors. Apart from the neons, it feels like it has a sort of 70s vibe to it. I mean, it might be because of the background or the backing on some of them, where I used fabric from a duvet set that we had in my family when I was growing up, and I guess this is from the 70s, so very fitting. The only thing that's, and I may have to change it, is this one here. And I'll overlay the little bit of video I did in our garden, hanging the bunting on the washing line. This one, the Ö, it sort of fades into the background, so I think I may have to redo it, the letter in a different color. I'm not sure which one. Maybe a green or pink would be nice. But apart from that one, I think they're all the letters stand out. I guess when you look at this close up, they look like they have a bigger contrast than they do from a distance. But that's okay. I'll just cut out another letter and stitch it on top. I'm not gonna bother with unstitching, because there's actually 2 lines of stitching here. So yeah, this was a really nice project to work on, and it's nice to think about the holiday that we're all going on. And I hope that everyone will enjoy this little surprise that I'm cooking up together with my sister. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, please give it a like and subscribe if you want to see what I make next. So I hope you have a great day and happy stitching.